Well, good morning. Welcome to Coffee with the Pastor. Glad you could join me this morning. We're going through the book of Esther. In Esther chapter 1, we read that King Xerxes had thrown this huge party, lasted for days and days and days, and they got drunk, and he started bragging about how beautiful his queen was, Queen Vashti. And he wanted to bring her in to all of his drunken friends and show her off about how beautiful she was. Well, Vashti was going to have none of it. She wasn't going to be known and shown as a sex object to all Xerxes' friends. I admire Vashti for doing that. But it bugged the advisors and the men around Xerxes. Says, Vashti can treat you this way. Every woman in the country can act like that. And so you got to do something. So she was stripped of her title as queen. She was banished to another land, and Xerxes was never going to see her again. Well, in chapter 2, it says this. Later, when the anger of King Xerxes had subsided, he remembered Vashti and what she had done and what he had decreed about her. He had decreed that she could never be queen. He decreed that she could never be back. And he begins to feel badly about it. And so the attendants of the king said, well, let us find another queen. Let us search the world and let us go to all of our kingdom. Remember, it was pretty vast, from India all the way through the Middle East. Said, let's search the kingdom and we'll find the most beautiful virgin women. You pick your favorite for queen. Now Xerxes, from what we can read in chapter 2, he had a pretty good sized harem, but he only one was queen, but then he had a lot of other wives and a lot of concubines. So he had a pretty big lot of wives. It doesn't say how many, but you get the feeling there was a lot. So they decided to do this beauty contest with a lot of the young, beautiful virgins and let Xerxes pick a new queen. And there's a Jewish girl by the name of Esther. She has been raised by either a cousin or uncle. Most translations call it a cousin. I think it could be a cousin, or some people think it might have been an uncle, but his name is Mordecai. He obviously is older, more like a parent figure to Esther. Her parents died, and he took her in, raised her as his own. And you get the feeling he suggests to her that she ought to get into this contest. And apparently she was selected. And Mordecai was around the where the palace was and all. And so while they were doing the beauty treatments with her, giving her a different diet and things to make her look more beautiful, Mordecai was there to check on her. And apparently what they did with these young virgins is they would take them to the king, King Xerxes, and he would spend the night with them. And but when it was Esther's turn to go spend the night with them, he liked her best, and he put the crown on her head, and she became queen. Now, she was put in the harem, but she had her own area. She had the queen's quarters and all with other wives. Now, one of the things that we have to understand about that is that with Xerxes, you didn't come unless you were called, and he would decide what wife he wanted and what night. And so it was not a good idea to try and see Xerxes unless you were called. You could be put to death for that, and we'll see that later in the book. So we have Esther in the royal palace. She is the queen. She's the only queen, but he has many wives. And then her cousin Mordecai stayed around the palace to kind of check on Vashti. I mean, not Vashti, but Esther. And Hadassah was her Jewish name. And then one day, Mordecai overhears a couple of the eunuchs who guarded the door to the king's quarter and they were plotting to assassinate him. He told Esther, Esther told others, and gave Mordecai the credit, and told the king, got word to the king, and they investigated, and sure enough it was true, and so those two eunuchs were impaled on a pole, and Mordecai's name went down in the chronicles and the things of history of saving the king. And that kind of does it for chapter 2, but I do find it interesting that God's going to save a whole nation by having a Jewish girl win a beauty contest, and by the king liking her more than he likes anybody else. You see God at work already. I see God's work in Mordecai because I think Mordecai is the one that kind of encouraged this and saw it and saw that God was working to do something. And so I kind of, like I say, God's name is not mentioned in this book, but you see him all over it. And I already began seeing the beginnings of providence working here. And so we will continue our study with Esther. We're looking at Esther chapter 3 tomorrow if you want to read ahead. Interesting book. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye now.